Okay. Again, good morning, everybody. Very glad to have you here with us. And today I'm going to be speaking a bit about not only the Stratup Nation that you already read and heard about, but a bit about that. Do you happen to know the gentleman in the screen?
The remaining left is David Ben-Gurion.
Right, and the other one?
Edwards, no?
Yes, that's right. Do you know, I'm sure that you heard, I'm not sure, I think that you heard that those gentlemen, one was the one that was the founder, both of them are the founder parents of the nation, the Patriarcas. One of them, Herzl, was the one that had the idea. He was like the visionary in our modern worlds, while Ben-Gurion was the executor. We can think about them as the one that is in the top level, just thinking, theoretizing, and everything, while the other one is boots on the ground, hands-on, and doing the stuff. This rare combination, it's rare, is what made Israel part of what it is today. And I'm going to be speaking about it in the next minute. By the way, this is not a lecture per se, but more like an open discussion, so feel free to stop me, share with me your opinions. If you feel more comfortable to comment in Spanish, it is okay as well. World Economic Forum. Do you know it, all of you?
Yeah.
Okay. The World Economic Forum divided the world, the countries in the world, in three different layers. We have resource-oriented countries, countries that are making their money from the ground. Agriculture, mining, and that's it. Today we can think about Africa as that. We can even think about some Latin American countries and some Mexican states as resource-oriented, agriculture-oriented, right? Above those, we have a second layer, which are the efficiency-oriented. Countries that are working with their hands, and the nation's profit is coming, the nation's GDP is coming from manual work. The maquilas, for example, is an excellent example of that. And the upper level is countries that they are innovation-oriented. So we are passing the process from the ground to the hand and to the brain. Okay? Israel, without thinking about it, without planning it, has passed through these three stages. In the beginning of the country, when I was a little boy here in the area of Tel Aviv, we saw that the export number one of Israel was Jaffa oranges. And that's about it. We had some rudimentary agriculture. Part of it came from other countries. Part of it was made by necessity. And the area that we're sitting, this Atidim Park, this high-tech park, was all orchard of, mainly of oranges. And if you take a look to your east, you may see that still we're surrounded by many orchards, many plantations of citrus. By the 70s, in my hometown, something like 5 miles from here, we have the Diamond Exchange Center with those tall buildings, and on this bridge there is a sign. It's not very well read with its resolution because it's also very old, saying that Israel is the #1 exporter of diamonds in the world.
Diamonds?
Diamonds. Yes. We are not digging any diamond. In this ground, you will not find anything. Okay, you can dig. You may find some stones from King David era, but you will not find any diamond. But since we had qualified manpower, and Jews traditionally were dealing with diamonds, trading with diamonds all over the world. So an economy of diamond polishing and cutting has been developed here in Israel, not far away from here. And during this time, during the 60s, very large chunk of the Israeli GDP, gross domestic product, came from this area. And now, in this era, we're living from our brains, from technology. We are not having any, the manufacturing exists, but in lower level, agriculture, production, and export exist, but in lower quantities. So our main GDP share is coming from innovation. And I'm sure people spoke with you and will continue speaking about many Israeli companies that are related to that. I don't want to repeat the same stuff again and again. And it's not like a game that we are so good and funny. Just to show you in a more graphic way the development of the Israeli GDP or the export. Starting by the 80s in very small quantities, we have two lines. The green one is services, and the blue one is goods. So we started in a very low level, something like $5 billion US per year in the 80s, and you can see that even though the service was so little, today it's contributing almost 50% of our export, something like 50-something billion dollars per year. While the goods are growing, but not so much. We estimate that within a year or two, we will be selling more services than goods. Services is, of course, SaaS, software as a service, software as a platform, any type of export that is not involved with physical goods that are traveling through customs. In other words, if it's not passing through customs, it is service. And service is going to grow, the percentage is going to grow, because the growth level of selling products from a limited ground is very small. It can grow until a certain level, but there is a cap which you cannot overcome. So by exporting more goods than services, we are more services than goods, we are cutting this limit. There is no barrier, meaning in this room I can grow, let's say, 1 ton of tomato per year. If I'm really, really efficient, I can do 2 stories here and I can do 5 tons or something like that. But if I try to develop intellectual property, there's no limit. From this room, with the mind that we have here, we can develop billions of dollars, right? Each one of you in his own expertise, contributing his knowledge, his wisdom, his experience, and his passion, or her passion. We can do something together, a product, a service that have no limits whatsoever. And you can see that many of the startups, Israeli startups, started as an invention in a small garage, in a small shop, in a small room, in a small apartment. Many times it happens in the university dormitory while speaking over beer what we can do, and we have to solve the problem of the universe by adding this and that and bringing some technology. That's part of what I'm going to do.
Those service companies that you mentioned that are like huge and big that you didn't want to brag about your local companies, do they start out as garage company, or since the ecosystem that you have is propense to help new startups or new companies, do they filter in like the whole ecosystem of startups, like the formal ecosystem, or do they start, like you said, in dorms and garages and...
Forget about filtering, okay? You are free to think whatever you want and whatever you feel like. I'm going to be touching part of it in this conversation, but basically, and you just hit it before I reached to this point, We can think about the Israeli as a nation that is, or the Israeli entrepreneur as the one that have a lot of hunger for success, but from the other side, all of us are very tolerant to failure. And I'm going to speak about it later on, meaning a typical situation of a local startup is that, let's say, the three of us came from the same unit in the military or studied on the same faculty, and we're engineers or coming from exact sciences or something like that, and saying, hey, I don't like the way that the bus is, I have to wait too long time for the bus to come, and we can speak about the flavor of the pineapple in Israel is very bad, and it's small quantity. Let's think about something to do either with mass transportation, buses, or with pineapple, or with anything else. And we're starting to throw ideas into the table. For example, we can say, let's try to improve the breed by bringing this and that. Let's try to change or to measure the quantity. Let's try by trial and error, do some stuff. And suddenly, what's your name?
Andrea.
Andrea is starting to write some code lines for monitoring, for processing, for analyzing, and Alejandro will start working on, I don't know, like a management system for all this stuff, and suddenly we have a prototype. And at this stage we will finish our money and we'll start go for what's called FFF, which stands for Parents, Friends, and Fools, that will sponsor us. And we're going to finish this money and we're going to start looking for money in the outside because we're starting to hiring personnel. And we may approach some government entities, we may approach, from the other hand, venture capitalists, angel investors, etc. They will listen to our pitch, they will understand if there is a go, no go, meaning is it something feasible, can we make money out of it? And if the answer is yes, they will assist us, they will sponsor us. By doing that, they will assist us grow. But what they're using is what we're calling risky funds. It's a kind of management of risks. And if a venture capital or the Israeli Innovation Authority is deciding to invest in such company, such stupid idea that the three of us had here, they may have something in their vision why. And this why is based on the fact that they know that we may have something like 80% chances to fail, but you still invest, because if only 5% of the startups will succeed, that will be a huge success. But even the failures are a kind of success because the knowledge and the common knowledge that we gathered will sponsor, will feed the other startups that we will continue in our next phase of life. Anyone here heard about a startup called Latin Void? Voice over IP? Latin Void. Do you heard about this company? No? Of course you did. That's my company. And it's failed. I did it with a Mexican friend. Both of us had huge ideas about how to make money from selling phone cards before the phone card industry started even. And we failed. But the experience that we gained during this time in technology, in communication, in connectivity, in cellular, in working with phone providers, in marketing, in management, and above all, about the interconnection between us, is a valuable tool, which is continuing to work until today. The startup died a long time ago, but I'm still in good friendship with this partner. To capsulize what I just said, I will appreciate, Daniel, I will appreciate if I have more water here.
Yes, of course. I just didn't want it to go through.
No problem, no problem. Thank you. If one of the important messages that I want you to get out from this conversation is this one. Society might be a university, a village, a city, town, state, country, nation, region, whatever you choose. Society that fails to create intellectual property is doomed to misery. I want you to understand this message. I'm going to connect it with my personal journey. Back in the 80s, I think before half of you were not in the world yet, I used to run jewelry factories in the Caribbean. And we were a subsidiary of an American company, and about once a quarter I used to travel to New York, bring more knowledge, more departments to the Dominican Republic, and develop a very successful factory over there. Within 3 years, I managed to grow a company from $3.8 million of sales to $18.1 million. And I did it because we added much more value into the production. We added more departments, more sophisticated jewels, more diamonds and precious stones. So by the end of it, we could grow the export. I was very happy. I felt very fulfilled because in this time I managed to bring income to millions and millions, not millions, to hundreds of families. I had at one stage 550 employees in my factory. And I thought that I'm doing good because I'm taking them out of the misery of their life as poor people to a level of very close to mid-income or middle class. As time flew, I continued to bring more companies, even from Korea, and I found out that some of the industry that we had in our free zone, in our maquila, starts walking out to cheaper locations. Peninsula of the Yucatan, for example. We had factories that moved from our free zone to other cheaper countries, to Honduras, to Guatemala, etc. And I understood that at this stage that the manufacturer, the typical person that is making production of anything, is an opportunist. If we're moving from one place, if the prices in one place will be cheaper than what he's paying today, he'll move his factory without even thinking. Thank you very much. Without even thinking about the consequences. He don't care about the poor people that are going to leave behind. He don't care about the facilities. He don't care about the ground that he destroyed. I'm going to give you an example from a different world, because I'm sure that with this example you're going to memorize it. And the field is porn. During about 10 years ago, California, which was one of the states that supported the production of porn films, decided that the industry should be more regulated. As part of the regulation, they enforced more tests, medical exams, and uses of condoms. The industry didn't like it, and in the state next to them, in Nevada, they had all those regulations. So all the industry, in one night, virtually moved from California to Nevada. In the very same way, companies are moving from one place to another. The diamond factory that was attached to my company started moving part of their production to India and then to Bangladesh. And today, part of the chains and the process that we used to do manually is being done now by machines. So we didn't progress the country at all because we just used the manpower. Once the manpower become too expensive, we move to another country. But if I were smart enough to develop an intellectual property in the country, in this case in the Dominican Republic, the know-how will stay in the country, it will not leave, and it will continue sponsoring the GDP of the country. So the two gentlemen we saw back from an ancient picture are now hipsters. They look like that more or less, and they're thinking more like entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurial way of thinking is different, and I'm going to be touching something that we're doing here in Israel. And one of it is the exposure to different technologies and types of knowledge. Who is too hot? It's too hot for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because you're sitting next to the exit of the... Okay, for example, we have some technologies that are coming from the military. Image processing, processing of very fine changes in the atmosphere. And we can take the same technologies and apply them to the industry. For example, in this case, this guy is inspecting aerial photos. Small point. Do you know who are the best people in Israel to inspect aerial photos? Women? This is right, yes. In all the spots where we have to inspect live cameras on the borders and in the ocean, it's 100% women because women are much better than men in many aspects, but in this one particular.
In every aspect.
In every aspect, yeah. Woman power. But in this section, you see a male, not a female, right? We identify there is a group that can detect even smaller changes. Those are people with autism. Okay? And I participated once in one of the universities about people that are sitting with, they had some rooms where they studied it. And if I will look at 2 pages, here one and second here, it will look for me almost the same, but they will identify very minor changes, okay? A tree that has been moved, a slope of land, some, I don't know, bags of cement, stuff like that. And we identify that they are the best guys to do it. Most of it is done automatically by machines, but a large part of it must be still human. So we're taking technology that's been developed for the military, and we're civilizing it for the civil war. It's part of the success that we've done here, because in the army they're investing a lot of money. You know, huge. The budget for R&D in Israel is high, it's more than 4% of the GDP, but in the army it's even higher. Okay, so we're taking those technologies, moving and using the same tools for different applications. This is another thing that we're doing. I'm coming from the Air Force myself, and most of the things that I'm doing in the way of doing business is coming from the Air Force, and it's based on any process. We start with a brief, okay? Let's say that we are deciding to develop tomorrow, you know, a party. So usually if we're going to do a party, you will take care of food and you for the location, you're going to invite people and you're going to check the list and that's it. No, we're going to do from that project.
And the wine news?
You see why we need to have a briefing in the beginning? Okay, so during this briefing, each one will receive his own task. during this briefing, we're going to say what's going to be the end goal of this party. Is it just to have dine and wine, or we have other type of agenda? For example, we would like to introduce new members to the team. We would like to collect money. We would like to, if we're going to collect money, for example, what are the KPI, the key performance indexes for that? Will $1,000 be good enough, or we're looking for 5,000? We're looking for an investor to bring 2 million. Okay? So we're starting with the brief. We'll continue with weekly meetings until the party. And after the party, of course, we'll do like a kind of a questionnaire. We're going to sit together and analyze what we have done, good and bad. The way of this analysis, which is open, which is very fair, without looking who want to blame, but just to see ourselves, we'll start usually with the words that I don't like to use, I, meaning I was mistaken by thinking that 5 bottles of wine would be sufficient for Mexicans.
60.
Yeah.
What was that?
I've been in Mexico City, I think it was 88 or something like that. I'm a Freemason, and we were a group of Masons. And our leader, which is an older guy, he was really my mentor for the rest of my life, told me that the maid came to his room and he said about my group, yo no sé qué pasa con esa gente. No parece gente, son esponjas. Yo tengo que ir a la nevera 3 veces por día. So I understood that our capacity of drinking is not so bad in comparison to Mexicans as well. I have a limited capacity today, especially for Coronas, but, or tequila or mezcal, but that's okay. So during this process, we're going to analyze each one of us what we're doing, how are we doing it, and why are we doing it, and we'll take the conclusions of this party, or the analysis of this party, and next time we're going to have a party, we're going to bring the paper with those conclusions, and we'll start analyzing it again during the brief of the next year. Remember, 5 bottles of wine are not sufficient for a group of Mexican. If we're thinking about 2 cups per person, now we have to think about 2 bottles per person. Okay? And so on. So, 2 is not enough? Okay. So we are getting into what we are calling a constant of a process of constant improvement. Any time that we will be doing a project, it will be better than the previous one and better than the previous one. This constant change, and this is an example of the briefing room, how it looks like. The way that it's set now is during the initial briefing. So we're taking those types of knowledges and those type of experience and applying them also to other areas. The military service also is aiding us in several other aspects. I'm going to touch 2. One of them is the way that we can survive in conditions with 0 resources. Remember again, while we started in this country back in 48, we didn't have anything. The people here say that they have, one of the chief of staff of the army said that he had a policy of iron wire. What's that? He was walking on the street, and if you see a piece of iron wire, he will take it, fold it, put it in his pocket. He'll see a bent nail, he'll take it with a stone, will try to fix it and put it in the other pocket. He knows that he will use this iron, this piece of metal tomorrow or the day after for something. So we learn how to save, how to be very efficient. We learn how to satisfy ourselves with very little. I spent living in a tent in my military service something like 3 months or so with other 10 people, and this time during my life made me understand myself better. I had a bag with all my stuff inside, and that was sufficient. And during this 3 months period of the basic training, they took us for 1 week in the field. So we took from the bag a triangle of brocent, of like a sack, and we went to the desert. And now 2 guys, for example 2 of us, built our own tents just for the 2 of us. Each one will have 1 triangle. With the 2 triangles, we're going to build a tent for us. We'll find stones, we'll find stuff, and we'll stay there for a week. And after a week, living in the ground, really in the ground, you start to appreciate what you had before. And going back to the 10 guys tent is like being in the Hilton. By the way, we used to call those dormitories the Hiltons. So this is one point, and the second one was leadership and management. In Latin America, there is a say that if you want to take a decision, you have to speak with the chief of the circus, because all the rest are just clowns, right? Here in Israel, you may find in the middle management and even the lower level management people with decision power, which is very impressive. I used to work in Latin America. I'm still working in Latin America for several decades now. And I know that if I have to move something, that a project or a decision that is involved some money, I usually have to escalate higher and higher and higher. Because no one from the lower levels have the ability to take decisions about what to do and how to do the stuff. You don't have the decision to sign a check. And people in Latin America, it also has to do something with the French codex in front of the Anglo-Saxon codex. But Latin's culture is not so much about taking decisions. And we can take decisions, and if someone will blame me, it's okay. Yeah, I can take the hit. That's not a problem from our point of view. Just a short brief of what we're doing here in the ecosystem that of the high-techs. Those are some of the multinationals that are working here in Israel. You can see the new ones here in the top.
The 6,000 since when? Like this year, this month, this week, this?
This part is from 2017. If you see, this box is new, it's not part of the slide.
Okay.
Those are fresh from 2 months ago.
So
Meaning,
Exits, it's a
IPO.
IPO?
it's not exactly IPO.
Okay.
An exit is when a company grows to a certain level, when someone say, I would like to buy you. I would like to buy you out. And yeah, it's in the Israeli economy, an exit is an exit. It is a success, but it's not. It's what you would say in Spanish, regalo envenenado. Because while I'm working with
Bean on pills.
excuse me,
The bean on pills. Yes.
because imagine yourself like a company like Waze, for example, is growing, reached to a point where people from Google invested a lot of money, bought most of the shares of the company. Another company like Mobileye developed itself into a certain level while Intel invested a lot of money. And this money is pouring back to the economy here in Israel, which is good. But the future benefits of those companies are not here. Mexican, for example, did the other way around from the point of view of Mexico. They found an Israeli company for irrigation system called Netafim, for two kibbutzes here in the south, and decided I would like to buy you out. I was involved with this process, so I know how was it. In this case, Mexico spent a lot of money here in Israel, a lot of Mexican money, what we're calling FDI, foreign direct investment, reached to Israel. But now the future royalties of this company will go to Mexico. Okay? We saw that from Israel to Mexico, while an Israeli company called Teva, one of the largest pharmaceuticals in the world, purchased a company in Mexico, which was a flop. They did a very bad deal with that. Invested, I think, $4 billion in Mexico, and the deal was not good. The due diligence was a failure, and we're very sorry that it didn't happen. I think that the most important point for you here is that during half a year, in the first 6 months of 2019, some 66 deals has been done. This is like virtually 2 deals per week, totaling $14.5 billion that was injected to the Israeli economy from those types of exits. And it's a continuous move, it's happening all the time.
What's the tax on it? What's the tax on it? 34%?
We're talking here about corporate tax, which is 25.
Oh, 25, okay.
23.5, it changes all the time, but around 25.
So around the government gets 20% of that ballpark number?
They're receiving much more because some of this money will go to the employees. After you're paying your corporate tax, some of it will go to the employees. The shareholder, the one that had the share options in the company. And those guys are going to pay higher taxes, around 30 to 35 to 45% of what they're going to
Based
pay.
on those two numbers, we have a 10% success rate.
Between which numbers?
I mean, you have the first
1,300.
The first 2 quarters, you have 66 deals. So in the next the third and fourth quarter, you're going to have 132. So it's roughly the 10% of the 1,300 new startups every year.
It's less. It's less.
Less?
Because, yeah.
It's less, 5%.
Remember that those 6,000 startups, if you check next year, we'll have about 6,000, more or less. But you'll see many new ones with zero income. It will never reach more than zero income for the next 5 years. And it's not that every year you have new and fresh 6,000. It's the same ones, but some new ones are coming and some other are just dying.
Yeah, they're in the pipeline.
It's a pipeline, but the pipeline is that most of those startups will fail. Yeah, we don't have exact numbers, and it's not correct to do because you cannot even measure what is a startup and where it is. I'm mentoring as a volunteer, pro bono, an association that is called Unistream, which I would love to bring to Mexico one day. We're taking guys at the age of 15, 9th grade, and in the first year we tell them, build a company. CEO, COO, CTO, Chief Marketing Officer, and so on. And we're going to start beefing them with knowledge and know-how and technologies and methodologies and tools and whatever they need. By the 10th grade, we'll tell those guys, now with the knowledge we already have, decide on a product and build me a prototype. By the end of the year, they will come with a prototype. And on the 3rd year, 11th grade, we'll say them, okay, that's nice, go get some money for it. Sell it. bring income. We're doing it with very poor people in the periphery, in the cities that are far away from the center. People that in the first year when I'm getting them, what do you want me to do? Well, I can be like my mother working in the kitchen, or like my father in the shop. And that's about it. They don't know how to speak, they don't have the language, they don't have the know-how, they are just like complete campesinos from the lowest level that you can think about. The same guys on the third year will come to me and ask me, hey, tell me, how can I get into this elite unit in the Air Force? Or can you please recommend me to the university? Complete change with the mindset, with the point of view. So we have over there every year more than 60 startups. It's 1% of this amount. But it's not counted here because they're in such an initial level and most of them will die before they will reach the news, before they'll make one website. So we're not counting it in this strategy. This is a slide that they took from our Prime Minister's presentations and showing the companies that led the world 10 years ago, 11 years now. Okay? You can see that most of the companies here are old economy. Fuel, energy, banks, and so on. You see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 companies that are in energy and petrol, and we have three banks, and just few technology companies. Now, the situation is different. You can see that the world is being led by many companies that are more into technology, meaning technology wins. And the Israeli flag that you see on some of them are companies that have their R&D center in Israel. I don't think that you can find any better vote of confidence than this one. Okay, just a short look will show you how the world leaders of the economy sees Israel. And the idea is that we have here something unique in our environment. And that's what I would like you to start thinking about. Okay? If you would like to go and think to the future of your country, your economy, your personal success, take this slide as an example. In the last years, I can get you. I can give you. The world in the last years developed to a maturity level all those technologies. We're taking, for example, flexible work places like this one, and flexible work in general, meaning I can work from home, I can have a virtual assistant working for me without even thinking about it. Mobile internet is part of our life. We cannot even think about, well, I don't have connectivity now, the signal has been lost, because it's an extension of our hand. Now we're getting more into this area. For example, newer energy. I'm involved in a project in the outskirts of Mexico City of converting energy waste to energy. We hope that it will succeed one day because the investments are very high. But the idea over there is we're taking the domestic waste of some cities, processing it biologically, meaning manually, mechanically, before that physically, taking metals, taking paper, taking plastics out, and the organic stuff, we're passing through a biological process that produces gas. We can use this gas directly to the industry.
So biodigestores,
Biodigestores. And if we would like, we can take this gas, infuse it into a turbine, and make electrical energy out of it, clean energy. By the end of the process, if we take the 100,000 tons of waste that is getting into the factory, it can be fill less than half of this room with the final waste that we'll have by the end of the process.
What state are you in working?
The old DF.
The old DF.
Yeah, CDMX, but not in the city. I will remember the names of the towns later on.
And how's regulation working out for you? Because garbage in Mexico, it's like playing with both.
This is one of the reasons that we're not getting into Mexico City, because the mafia is holding that.
Yeah, the ordenadores are the big consortium of...
Yeah. We're trying to work on different projects. For example, there is a problem called El Sargasso. I don't know if you're aware of it. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We're speaking about algae that are leaving Brazil area, the northern shore of Brazil, and traveling toward Mexico. So we have a project in which, by aerial satellite or drones, we can locate the concentration, pick it up, pass it through biodigesters, and process into energy before it reaches the land. It also stinks, and it's a huge problem. So those are part of the project that we're doing in neural energy. Internet of Things, all of you know about it, 3D printing. One of the global strategy companies that consulting firm I'm working with now is working on an industrial park like a Maquila in Shandong province, China, just for 3D. So those are things that are happening now while we're sleeping and working and going to restaurant. So if you're getting into that on time, we still can work it out. Longevity, aging. This is a huge problem in the world. Brazil is just working now on a reform that will prevent the country to go into a deeper recession in a few years because of the money that's going to be paid to people that should get pensions. Yeah. Because in Brazil, they didn't calculate the growth, the life expectancy properly. Here, it's not much better, I can assure you. Aging people is also an interesting source of income and success for the near future. For example, the treatment of elderly people. Today in Japan, people are being treated by robots in large part of the daily needs. There are technologies to assist old people, starting with sensors that can sense the way that I'm working in the house. We're talking a lot about artificial intelligence, AI, and that's getting into it. For example, if the system studies me, my habits, my mother is now 80 and something, and she's living alone. And at her home, we have to install some services for her, like a camera that she can connect to the world and chat with other people. With the same system, camera and TV, she can participate remotely in lectures all over the world. We have the system within this technology, she don't need it yet, but we'll reach to it in a year or two, that is monitoring her daily behavior. If we know that, if the system understands that she's waking up between 7 and 8 in the morning and going to the bathroom, 10 minutes, from there to the kitchen, 15 minutes more. She have like habits during her life. The artificial intelligence engine will study her personally, and if anything is out of the normal, like breathing pattern, like the position that she's laying in the bed, like a sudden fall sign, like she fell on the ground, or stuff like that, they will alert us. They will send me the alert, hey, listen, this and that happened. Okay? So those are technologies that are already in place. Think on it and try to get into it. If you are more innovative, go on next year's, or the next year's future economy. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are working together, and it's part of our modern world. Advanced robotics is part of the so-called fourth revolution, the industrial revolution, the fourth industrial revolution. Biotechnology and genetics are becoming very strong. Just to give you an example, part of my job, I'm doing some headhunting for senior positions, and usually a company from Jerusalem asked me to hire for them chief scientist, someone with PhD in postdoctoral in bioinformatics. What those guys are doing, all that together. They understand that a human researcher, the smartest and the fastest in the world, cannot swallow the quantity of medical information and research that have been written in the last years. So they have an AI machine that will read millions and millions of pages of documents using a BI, business intelligence systems and big data mechanism to take out some knowledge, some understandings from those millions of pages from one side. So they will have a condensed knowledge. Then we will take this knowledge and apply it into a tissue. It might be a plant, an animal, or human tissue. And by doing so, they will be able to save millions of dollars and tens of thousands of man-years just in the study. So we are there, okay? If you are more innovative in your thinking, go here. If you still would like to play it safe, go here. But remember, this one has already been matured, okay? This is the sentence that I started the conversation with. Over here, the accumulated wealth of those three gentlemen at the time of this picture in 2015 was more than 1 billion. And this is a fail call, a conference of failures. People are coming and speaking about their failures. By the way, the not so politically correct name of this, and excuse me, ladies, fuck up night. Yeah, we're coming to a room and speaking. Hey, I screwed up yesterday, you know. And it's a part of our culture. Now, this gentleman in the middle, which I know him personally, Eden Shoha, built a small company after this failure. Built a small company called Face.com, which was sold to Facebook. And part of the engines of face recognition that Facebook is using today is built on his technology. Okay? Let's go to the next phase. Questions till now? Let's try to do like, after you got all the information over here, let's try to do something like a brainstorming about how to take what you learned from us and Latinize it, prepare it to your environment, to your knowledge, to Latin America and to Mexico in particular. I will start this process by guiding you. You know the term R&D, I+D. When I'm speaking, you don't know it? Research and development, Investigación y Desarrollo. When I'm saying I+D, R&D, what will you visualize? I would like to hear from you what you see in front of you. Who can tell me what you see? What kind of image?
Science.
Science.
What?
Okay. Someone else?
Computers.
Computers. Yes.
Laboratories.
Laboratories. Anyone else? Investment and
Hypothesis.
inventions.
Hypothesis.
Hypothesis. Okay.
Work groups.
War groups. Okay. It's very interesting. Most of you are more related to something like that, like basic science, right? You can see in your eyes labs, investigations, people in white coats working in a lab. The lab is usually where? Where are those labs located?
Universities, private universities,
Okay.
private,
Investigation centers.
private
Okay.
or public.
Public. You see,
CERN.
you see strong government in the area, right?
Yeah.
It smells like government, and it smells like university. It stinks. So yes, this is the truth. In most of the world, especially in Latin America, all your knowledge is based in this area, in the area of the research. For that, countries like Argentina are so strong with their practices in psychology and stuff like that, even in orthodoncy, etc. Because you are very strong on the leg of the research. Over here, we are stronger on the development part, okay? Which, like good Jews, what we're saying is we are trying to monetize the invention. Imagine yourself, let's go for Mobileye. All of you heard about Mobileye, right? Yes? No? Yes? Yes. Okay. Mobileye started as a project in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Machine learning, a system that managed to detect stuff that is changing normal path. The guys from Mobileye took this invention, this patent, this academic algorithms and know-how, and they're using the same algorithms for other things. For example, to see if my car are correctly in the middle of the lane. It can see if someone is crossing my way and if there is a risk of collision. They measure the distance between me and the car in front of me, correlated with my speed. It can also read traffic signs in the way. Okay? So, it's the same invention coming from this side of the research lab, which is applicable in the real life. Mobileye didn't stop there. They took the same technology, the same algorithm, the same patents, and said, okay, let's develop ORCAM. ORCAM are small glasses and special glasses for blind people that can give you like a visual image of what you see in front of you. Okay? But it's again using the same stuff. So, and Mobileye was $15 billion in the moment we purchased from Intel. Meaning that we took intellectual property, going back to intellectual property, from the labs at the university, sponsored by the government, by the public sector, and we're making money out of it. Don't worry, the university is going to get their royalties out of it. Don't worry, the government is going to get taxes out of it for years and years. Okay? And now we are monetizing, we are making money. Making money is the largest part of success in business. That's how we are being measured by the end of the day. The alliance between the academy and the industry are extremely important. I'll tell you a story of something that I did in the cyber park of Santo Domingo. At 2001, the end of September 2001, I received a call from the Cyber Park of Santo Domingo to run it, to build it basically. Do you know what's the day today? September 11. At that September 11, you know what happened? After the towers failed, all the industry fall together. And when I reached to the Cyber Park by the end of September 2001, I asked them to bring me the list of prospects to see what I can do. I was looking to have like a dossier, a portfolio with many names of companies. I received a paper with 3 names: Sun, Cisco, Microsoft. So I tried to go to Microsoft. I was very proud that a VP of Microsoft received me in Seattle. By the end, I understood that he's very low-level vice president. And we had a conversation. I tried to convince him, and I have a lot of persuasion power, tried to convince him to invest in the park as Microsoft. And it was not very open. And then the Latin way, I took him out for a beer, and he started to mellow and relax a bit. And he told me something that I still have it burned to my brain. Listen, there's no way that Microsoft will invest in a park which is owned partially by the government, while the Dominican government is the largest illegal user of Microsoft software. Wow. Can you imagine the hit that they got at this night? So I understood that the economy has been changed. Those guys from Microsoft will not come. Sun dropped tremendously. It's not as important today as it was back in the beginning of the century. And with Cisco, we did something. I'll speak about it in a few minutes. So I decided, okay, we have to change the business here. We have to change the environment. I tried to see what kind of assets do we have. And I would like to also to think in terms of assets. Assets are not only money that you have, but also intellectual assets. In the DR of this time, we had a very good connectivity. I managed to bring to the park 3 fiber optics from 3 different providers. From the other hand, I successfully, thank you. I'm finishing all the water. If you know that Israel is a dry country, that's because of me. At that time, the US started to deport illegal immigrants. So we found out that they have a lot of manpower that can work in the park. The interesting thing was that those guys were youngsters, 16, 17, 18, people that were born in the US or lived most of their adult life in the US. They didn't know how to speak Spanish. And they came to the Dominican Republic and could not find work. So I took those 2 assets and said, okay, let's build a park based on how to use the phone lines. So I opened a lot of call centers and other services that help to milk the phone lines, such as BPO, digitalization of information. We did surveys or processing of surveys. We did processing of phone vouchers and credit card vouchers. The only problem that I had that initially I declared that the park was drug-free environment and everyone had to pass his doping test once every quarter. I couldn't do it now. Everybody were using drugs. Okay? Light drugs usually. And we had a lot of other type of problems, mainly related to sexual harassment. We had a lot of problems on other areas. But finally we managed to fill the park with companies. It was not Cisco level, but many small companies. Now with Cisco I did something else. Adjacent to the park we had the Tech de Santo Domingo. It's not the Tech de Monterrey, not like your university. It was the ITLA, Instituto Económico de las Americas, which served as a training center in computer science. It's more like, it started as a vocational school. And I convinced Cisco to build up a class in our center, sponsored by the World Bank for $3.8 billion. I brought them to the park. They built the class. They didn't have to bring many routers. They built only one rack with routers, but the rest of the work has been done remotely with routers that's sitting in San Francisco. So, in this time, we started training people here. It was initially very hard to take people from a poor neighborhood with very little English, with very little academic knowledge to come. But then we spoke with them, we showed them that if the monthly wage in the DR at that time was around $100, and with all the French benefits it might be reach $150 monthly. As a CCNA, Cisco Certified Network Engineer or Cisco Certified Network Administrator, you can make around $80 per hour. So that's quite a motivation. Okay? So, and we told Cisco, you're going to contribute, but you're going to gain back. Because by the end of the course, you will have the right to choose and cherry pick the best graduates to work for you at your condition. It worked excellent. So the alliance of academy and industry is very important. Since most of you are working very closely with the academy, you're the one to try to move it. And do you know what's the role of the government? The role of the government is not to disturb us. That's it. No, really. The government has to understand that its role is to be the regulator and the facilitator, to bring all the facility, to create a regulation, and to collect taxes. Yeah, that's right. Do you know what are the 3 biggest lies in the world? The 3 biggest lies, according to us, is not tonight, honey, I have a headache. Okay? The second one is the check is in the mail. Okay? The check is para la firma, very known. And the third one, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you. Forget it. Nobody is coming from the government to help. Okay? The government knows at the best to regulate and to fiscalize, to take taxes out of it. There is a famous saying about, I think it was Queen Victoria, that visited the lab where Faraday was working on the initial phases of the modern electricity. And she was very criticized. She didn't understand why she, as a government, have to sponsor those inventions. And Faraday told her, what is good for? And Faraday told her, I don't know, my queen, what it's good for, but I know that by the end of the game, you're going to charge taxes for it. That's for sure what happened in the year. So the government should be only the regulator and the facilitator. First facilitator and then regulator. Israel is not so good in many things, but from that point of view, the Innovation Authority is one of that is taking those startups in the initial phase and giving them some subsidies. By the way, and that might be very interesting for you as well, the Israel Innovation Authority have some deals with Mexican entities, mainly with the CONACYT, I think.
Will the new government see?
It's forget new government, old government.
Maybe here, but in Mexico, it does affect a lot. In Mexico, it does affect the new government.
I know. Any one of you knows about a website called 1 Million Tweets Map? Try to look for it.
1 million tweets?
1 Million Tweets Map. This is a website that can show you visually on a map tweets in the world. And 3-4 months ago, while I was working with the project of the waste collection, I tried to compare the two terms. One was AMLO, and the second one was AMLO renuncia, or fuera AMLO, AMLO fuera, something like that. And it was very interesting to see the positive and the negative reactions between the two of them. Yeah, this is the site. You can choose some keywords or hashtags, and you can identify very well what's going on. Yes, I know that Mexico has been changed tremendously since López Obrador took power. It's very pity that, for example, Pro-Mexico, that did excellent job, has been disappeared. It is very pity that the government is now segregated all over the country, and there are some control issues. It's very pity to know what happened with the refineries and the management of energy in Mexico.
The medicine? Public health?
Many things. But what I'm talking about mainly is the G2G agreement and the continuation of governability between one government and another. Meaning that if my government is changing, I can still be in the agreements are still valid. So most of the agreements that we're speaking about are still valid, including this one. This is a joint R&D project. Under this project, which you can apply today. Under this project, let's assume that my company would like to develop a software, and the cost of developing here in Israel are very expensive. So I can... Yeah, please.
Okay. No, last time, after work.
Okay. So let's say that my company would like to develop a software, and it's too expensive for me, so I can contract any one of your companies to develop this software for me, especially if it's specialized. Especially, let's say, I would like to check I don't know, avocado production in the world. I also know that avocado production has been now moved to the hands of the mafia in Mexico. But let's say I'd like to check avocado seeds, productions, and yield. Okay? So I cannot do it in Israel with the limited amount of avocado trees that we have. I will go to Mexican plantations. It can be also dedicated to other things, I don't know, like medicine or whatever. So I can contract one of your companies to do the job for me. By the end of the day, you will give me an invoice. The development costs you $50,000. I can go to my innovation authority and receive a subsidy for about half of this amount. While you can take your bill of material, remember you charge you $50,000, material costs are something like $30. So you go with your bill of material, costs you with your bill of payroll, stating that you paid $30,000 for this, and CONACYT will sponsor you with another half. This is development, and this is the way to reach to a higher level of your company, because working with Israeli company, having joint R&D projects, it's positioning you in a better positioning in the market. Now, the truth is that these projects are not very successful. Israeli don't trust too much Mexicans, and people here still see the typical Mexican as the one that's sitting with his cigar below a tree. Yeah, the typical campesino or the drug dealer. They don't see Mexican like you. I have a friend in Brazil that his statements are, I don't play football, I don't dance samba, I'm not living in favela. So they don't understand that the typical Mexicans are in a different level than they usually understand that it is. So we decided to downgrade the level from joint R&D to what we're calling a product adaptation. Product adaptation means localization to Spanish. Adaptation of my software to different legal frame. For example, I have a company here that is doing e-learning, and I would like to convert this company. Like I'm going to do like a spin-off of part of the company. Instead of selling the software to schools, I would like to franchise it. So franchising is a different legal frame, and it's different in any country. So I can go to a legal frame in Mexicali, for example, and ask them to do for me the research and the plan on how to do it correctly, how to adapt my system to the Mexican law of franchises. Okay, this is a product adaptation. The nice thing about it for the Israeli company, they are not sacrificing the IP, the intellectual property, the source code. They're just giving part of the software that are not as important. And it's also opened the way to work together with the companies, meaning I can start with you, for example, in the relations of, like, you're going to be my agent in Mexico, meaning you're going to be selling my product in Mexico, and then you're going to build up like some know-how about my product, and I can say, hey, Andrea, can you please develop me the localization to Spanish? Yeah, sure. And I'm very proud with the job that you've done, and I'll ask you, Andrea, I need now to develop a new model of my software that is connected to the ERP system. Can you do it? Of course we can. We have all the manpower here. And that's another project.
Like an open source?
The open source, in an open source scenario, I'm not sacrificing the IP because the IP is not mine.
It's public.
Yeah.
It's public.
So, is there like a chamber that looks out for Mexican or Mexico, Brazil, and every Latin American country, or is it states?
There is a G2G agreement, government-to-government agreement, between CONACYT and the Israeli Innovation Authority,
Okay.
which set the rules for those regulations. They have like opening documents from time to time. We have a project that will end by the end of October for companies in the biomed or in travel tech to do projects with Mexico. So companies from here are looking for partners. One of the biggest obstacles that I see for me as an Israeli entrepreneur by looking to companies in Mexico is that I don't have any mapping of the Mexican software, the Mexican innovation arena. I don't know, maybe there is, but I don't know about it. It's not public for me, and believe me, I am one of the persons that is mostly connected to Latin America. I don't know about any source of information where I can see all the software companies in Mexico divided by expertise, quantities of employees, fields, languages, computer languages that they know how to work, projects they have done, locations, past projects. it's something that if I have, I will feel much more comfortable to pick up the phone and call those companies. In Israel, we have several platforms like that. For example, you can check mappedinisrael.com. You can see another site that calls Stratup Nation Finder, Stratup Nation Central, which they have Stratup Nation Central Finder, in which you can find companies over there. You'll get all the details you need.
Can you spell it again?
Stratup Nation Central.com/finder. This could be a huge contribution that you can bring to Mexico and make money on the way, because people will pay subscription for your site. Okay. As I mentioned, the idea is start thinking from R&D to R2D, from research to development. Research to development. Okay. This is my first book that stating among everything that the customer is the king, and you know how to treat the customer like a king. Do it. In this book, I'm revealing some of the systems that I have on how to take leads and convert them from cold leads to gold leads by what we're calling lead qualification, leads enrichment, how to negotiate with prospects. And the idea here, and this is part of the problem I noticed in the Israeli arena initially, is that most of our startups are product oriented. Remember, I started the conversation with our company, the three of us, we're product oriented, we're thinking about the product. And since we are computer geeks, we're coming from exact sciences, from engineering, we like to add another feature, but features are not selling. What is selling is first the initial study. I mean, I have to learn my market to know who are my competitors, who are the main players in such market, or in any niche. I would like to know also what are the regulations, remember the government. I would like to know if there are any barriers, like custom, taxes. I'm facing now problems in Brazil. In almost any country in the world, I can go to the custom with this product and say, I would like to import that to Brazil. Can you please do me what we're calling pre-ruling and tell me how much taxes should I pay for it? So if I go to the Mexican authorities, they will tell me, okay, this glass is falling under Aegis code, harmonic code, number so and so, and according to the Israel-Mexico free trade agreements, the tax on it is 3%. By the way, you have to pay also X% for value-added tax and so on. But in Brazil, it's not like that. Nobody can tell you, and there are different taxes between state and states, even from cities within the same state, especially in the Sao Paulo state. So it's very hard for us to determine the pricing. So this study can save me a lot of time and money while trying to penetrate to the market. And then the second phase, after I did my study, is to be more customer-oriented. Give my product and build it according to the needs of the customer. Okay? For example, I may think that in this clicker, I need voice recognition as a technician, as an engineer. And I'm going to add voice recognition to it. I may think that the customer will appreciate if this type of clicker will be flatter, so it will be easier to put it in my pocket. But it is based on my assumption. But my assumptions are not correctly all the time. I have to see what the market would like. And if I will do this study correctly and I will think customer, 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 I will not add features that the customer don't like. By the way, do you know what assumption means? Yeah?
Yes.
When I assume, you know what's happened? I'm making ass of me and you. So don't assume. Study. Research. The same stuff, okay? From R to D is the ability to convert your idea into invoices, okay? Ideas to invoices. Let's talk about the continent a bit. Try to take a look at the GDP growth in the continent. It's very mistaken. We're talking about your projections. Some projections are not correct. And we have here 3 large countries that are pulling the continent down. Mexico is the 4th one. We have Argentina with very bad situation. We have Brazil in pretty bad conditions. And we have Venezuela that I don't even want to speak.
It's the king.
Yeah, they are winning everything. If I've eliminated those 3 countries, I think that the impact on the GDP is stronger, and you can think about the countries with the highest GDP growth as your leader and the way to think about it. While those countries were trying to sell a lot to China, and while China reduced the purchasing, they failed. Those countries, mainly Chile and Peru, that were relying on the Chinese purchases, managed to have some reserves, and the growth has been not jeopardized so much. One of the things I'd like to do with you in this way of thinking is to think global and local at the same time. You're located in a very unique position where Mexico has so many free trade agreements, more than most of the countries that I know. First, we have the North American Free Trade Agreement in its new name. We have agreements with the Pacific Alliance, okay? And we have agreement with the other bloc as well, and with Europe. Mexico is very strong as being the manufacturing side of the US. And this is the time to move Mexico from being the manufacturing, from being in the efficiency-oriented countries to the innovative oriented countries. And the time to do it is now. And the way to do it is by increasing your sales to the region. Mexico is much more sophisticated than most of those countries, and they will appreciate products from Mexico as well. Let me show you what happened in the 2 largest commercial blocks in the continent. By the way, questions till now? No. We have 2 blocks. We have the Mercosur, even if we're taking Venezuela out, and we have the Pacific Alliance. Mercosur is older, with larger economies by quantity of population. But on the last years, we can see that the Pacific Alliance is much better. Okay? And I think the main reason is politics and the way politics are thinking. We're talking the pre-AMLO era mainly in the way that we're thinking, okay? Over here we have people like Lula, Temer, Dilma, and we have the Kirchners over here, which have a way of thinking which is more closed economy. They try to be the fiscalizing agent. Everything that goes in from the outside have to pay high taxes, and there were free trade, free of taxes between the countries of the bloc. They did not open so much to the world. While the Pacific Alliance, especially because you're in the Pacific facing Asia, and we have more a right-wing and a visionary and business-oriented heads of states, those countries started to grow and grow and grow. That's led to this condition. Now with the current president, some things has been changed, but either he, López Obrador, and Bolsonaro from the other side understand very well that the growth of the country are coming from export and export and export. They have to continue pushing toward openness and less closing the economy. They are doing a lot of efforts in order to make those agreements proceed and succeed, and I'm sure that you can be part of it. In the next slides, I'm going to be speaking a bit about different topics. One of my expertise is in the so-called national competitiveness. I mentioned the World Economic Forum, which I'm working with them since 2002. Someone have a question over there? Social activity?
¿Vale? ¿Vale?
Did you ask something? No. Okay.
No, estoy leyendo, perdón.
Okay. One of my expertise is in national competitiveness. I build competitiveness programs for several countries and to states, in federal countries, and to cities, towns, and even for organizations. And I'm basing my success on several axes. Not all of them are relevant for you and for Mexico, and you are feel free to take or leave whatever you want from what I'm saying here. We're talking about several ones. I think the most important axis is the and more related to you is the one that is related to education. Agriculture is also very important. Today with precision agriculture, with more information, more knowledge pouring into agriculture, more big data, a more sophisticated way, satellites, drones, etc. There are endless things we can do in the agriculture in order to increase the yield. One of the things you have to, I'm running fast because I don't want to overkill you with information. The build-up of technology transfer mechanism is important. Remember that I started, in part of the conversation I was speaking about Mobileye, I explained the importance of IP, intellectual property, and its management. So by building a successful technology transfer mechanism in the university, in town, in the government, in the state, you can assure that you're getting the correct value of your invention, and you feel free to give it. If I'm writing a patent and I'm registering it in the US or whatever, and nobody's using it, the patent might be on my name, but it will not make any money. But if I'm opening it to the world and saying, I have here a patent, but each one of you can use it by paying me 1 cent per every unit sold. I have a small software agent that will go on every cellular phone sold from now to eternity, that will allow better management of battery life. Okay? And so take the code, install it on any phone that you're selling, and pay me 0.02 cents of dollar per device. Okay? That's good for me because the multiplier are higher. So a good a technology transfer system can help you here. Case studies in Mexico. I'm sure that most of you knows those logos, or at least part of them.
Two. Bimbo and Cemex, the others.
Okay. Bimbo, since you mentioned them. Bimbo reached us with 2 requests. We'd like to prepare gluten-free bread because there are growing demand for it, and we'd like it to be tasty. And the second one was we'd like to increase shelf life of our breads. So we introduced them here to the Israeli food tech centers. We have several food tech companies or accelerators. By the way, I'm personally doing a lot of acceleration training all over the world. And we found out some ways to make it happen. Speaking about food tech, the World Bank